You're listening to the Served Up Show, a podcast that features inspiring beverage professionals and topic experts that share their passions through meaningful content. Your hostesses, Bridget Albert, is best known as the Market Fresh Mixologist, an industry mentor with over 25 years of experience. And I'm Julie Milroy, best known for my passion for leading change and helping others grow in their careers. Grab a cocktail and sit back. Let's learn how we can make a positive impact in our industry. Hello, Served Up friends. I'm thrilled to introduce you to Sheana Hamill, a B2B SaaS marketing leader with experience across all sectors in the energy industry, manufacturing, technology, and financial services. Sheana is deeply passionate about developing the next generation of leadership, championing diversity and inclusion, and paving the way for others. She shares her story of ambition and perseverance, immigrating to the U.S. from Sri Lanka. Now grab your favorite cocktail, sit back, and get inspired. Sheana, thank you so much for joining us on Served Up today.
Thank you for having me, Julie. It's so great to see you.
It is so good to see you. I feel like the last time we saw each other was in New York City, right? When we went to and had Singaporean, was it Singaporean food?
Yes, it was Singaporean food. It was the first and last time we saw each other in person.
I know, way too long, because I feel like it was like the end of last year.
It was. We're long overdue. And I have been thinking of like a Korean bathhouse outing that came to mind definitely when I was coming in here. And then I was also craving Singaporean food once I realized this podcast was coming up. So definitely kind of
all these memories, right? Like all these triggers.
Exactly. Completely related to you and our experience together.
Well, what's so funny is like our listeners are probably like, what's up with these Korean bathhouses? Because they keep coming up on our episodes. So I'm so glad. And like EJ says, we should have gotten the duck, and we will get the duck next time.
Yep. Definitely. And there will be a next time.
And there will be, for sure. We just got to plan that out. So Sheana, I really wanted to talk with you because I think, meeting you and a few of our conversations that we've had and learning bits and pieces of your story, I know that it's so inspirational with kind of the journey that you took coming to the US and everything you went through. And I would like you to share that with our listeners. So can you just kind of once upon a time, take us back to the beginning of your story and how you got to kind of where you are today.
Yeah, happy to. And I am always happy to share this story in the hopes that, it will inspire someone or, give someone else hope because, we all go through so many hardships throughout our lives. And sometimes it's very hard to get that inspiration to keep going. So I am an immigrant. You already know that. I came here when I was 18 by myself. And just kind of going back to that, coming here was a goal of mine since I was 9 years old. And it's funny that I think of it now because my children, my twin boys, are 9. So I always, every age, and I don't remember when I was 6 or 5 or whatever the case is, but I do remember me at 9. And that was one of the things I declared to my parents was that I was going to move to the US. And I was going to do that by starting, by getting an education. And at 18, I'll be gone. And they kind of laughed at me initially, but they also knew how headstrong I was and just how determined I could be. So I think they did take me seriously to some extent. And I was laser focused on that goal. I even tell the story where like from a grades perspective, I was not that focused on getting straight A's and all of that, because I was looking at I was more strategic in terms of this is what I need to do to get there. And so, if I have to do the minimum here, but then maximize on this end, which was sports or community service or whatever the case might be, then that's what I was going to do. Right. So I was okay with an occasional C and B and so on, but my goal never changed. So that was, I kind of marvel at it now looking back, because my boys are 9 and they are not that strategic.
No, I know. I'm like, that's a major, big strategic decision to make at 9 years old. So where is home for you, and why the US? Like, what was it that you wanted to come here and really have your adult and life here?
Yeah. So I was born in Sri Lanka. And at the time I made this declaration, we were actually living in Oman in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. So my dad had taken a job there, and when I was 5, and I was actually left in Sri Lanka for some time living with my grandparents, mm-hmm. while my parents moved to Oman with my little brother, who was just born. So we're 5 years apart. And I was flying by myself internationally at that time to go back and forth from Sri Lanka to Oman. So even that, thinking back, I can't imagine sending my kindergartners on an international flight solo, but I was doing that. And I actually enjoyed it a lot of times, because, I'd get all these ice creams, all these sweet things that they want to kind of ply you with. And
that spoiled.
Yeah, I was spoiled. So I had to, I guess in a way I did have to get very independent very quickly. Mm-hmm. And partly I think my reason and my desire to escape really went back to the way things were in Sri Lanka. Mm-hmm. We were in a civil war at the time. And so I had seen some horrific things. Mm-hmm. And I continued to see horrific things once we moved back from Oman back to Sri Lanka. And I just did not want to be a part of that anymore. I wanted to escape. I was really looking for my own American dream, really. And so I saw it as an escape, but an opportunity to also start from scratch and start afresh.
Mm-hmm. And so where was school for you? And what is that kind of, if you were to stay in Sri Lanka, like what is the, what do futures usually look like for young women and perhaps some of your friends or family that stayed?
Yeah, that's a good question, because even my friends and family that stayed have left since then. Mm-hmm. They have either moved to Australia or New Zealand. Those are the primary 2 destinations, or the US. And in fact, a lot of my family has moved here, my extended family, my aunts and uncles and so on. And as I immigrated here, I was able to bring my parents over. I sponsored them, got them citizenship. And so they've been here now for over 10 years, which has been incredible.
That's amazing, because, I can relate to that story as my mom immigrating here from South Korea, right? And
yes,
for that opportunity, for a new life, to be able to provide. And at the time, she was in her mid-20s, had us so young. And I couldn't imagine me being in my 20s, immigrating to a new country, any country, right? So
with a child.
With children, exactly.
Yes,
I mean, and a horrible husband. So that's like a whole nother story. But, when you don't have an ally and all of that. But
support system. Yeah.
Right. And not understanding the language. When did you learn English? Is that something part of your culture that English is kind of taught early on, or was that something that you
Yes.
pursued later? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, I was raised bilingual, and my parents also wanted my brother and I to learn other foreign languages very early on. So we were in French and German. We were taking French and German lessons when we were also around 10. So, that was really instilled on us very early. But I learned, and I grew up with British English. So there was a little bit of a transition that had to happen as I moved here. But that's easy to do. I think when you're younger and you're going through college and all of that. So I feel like I've assimilated pretty well.
Yes, for sure. And so tell us about that process, like how when you obviously decided at 9, you did everything you needed to do to get here. What did that look like? And then how did it finally happen?
Yeah, so my original dream was to go to California. That was kind of my thing. I wanted to go there. And I was pushing for that as hard as I could, but my parents were like, we already know how distracted you can get. So I had all these acceptance letters, and they were like, California, maybe not so much. We'll send you to Ohio. So where you can't possibly get into anything or any trouble. So I found myself in rural Ohio, in the middle of like all these cornfields and all of that. And it wasn't as glamorous, certainly, as going to college in California. And, I had dreams and visions about having the beach super accessible, the mountains, skiing, like all of these things that I wanted to do, that I thought would be exciting. And in rural Ohio, the most exciting thing was just going out to eat, or like going to Walmart and walking around, because it was a super Walmart and it was massive. And it's so sad as I think back to that, right? But as a kid from Sri Lanka, like that was still very different to me. Like we didn't have super Walmarts there. We didn't even have a TV when I was born. Like that was not a thing. So those things that, Americans, and I certainly now take for granted, are not things that are accessible to people around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of that, it's funny, from my husband growing up in South Africa, there was, they didn't get a lot of access to a lot of the things that we did. So he always has that comment with my son, when I was young, I didn't have this and I didn't have that. So I totally get it. So then you came over through school, and that was in Ohio. And how was that journey for you? What was like your biggest challenges, and, how did you kind of plow through that and, stay? Cause I think a lot of people too, like they'll kind of try and then they end up going back.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, actually that's an interesting story, because, I actually got sick while I was in school, and I didn't know what it was. Doctors couldn't diagnose me. I had mono, but they couldn't figure out that I had mono at the time. And so by the time I was diagnosed with it, I was really far into it and just completely out of it, miserable. So I had to take a year off school to just recover physically from it. And I spent that year back in Sri Lanka. So I went back, took some time off, really rested, recuperated, all of that, and then came back. So that was challenging in and of itself, because I wasn't going to graduate with my incoming class. And I was, disappointed about that. And then I didn't go down that traditional path of getting an internship. And I kind of thought through that and wondered exactly what to do, but I was sort of on the fence. And then I met a boy. So I met a boy in college. Obviously, I met a lot of boys, but this boy in particular, I ended up marrying. So instead of going to grad school, I got married right after I graduated. This man was in the military. So he was a Marine. And the way this all went down is after I graduated, I did go back to Sri Lanka and he followed me, proposed, and we came back and got married. At the time, he was stationed in Camp Lejeune, the one where you see all those lawsuits and now with the water contamination and all that. Yes. But so yeah, I lived in this really small town of Jacksonville, North Carolina for some time. That's actually where we got married. The marriage didn't last. He was violent, so it was a domestic violence situation. So much so that I found myself in a women's shelter one time. And I honestly should have gone more frequently than that one time, but that was like my breaking point. And what I discovered through that process is that when, women go through domestic violence, they leave and come back 7 times or more. It's this kind of continuing process, right? Because you're just trying to kind of almost excuse or like just find a reason to like
rationalize
to give your person a pass because you think like, okay, they are going to change.
And you also care for them, right? Which is so hard to understand to somebody that's abusive, is that you actually still care for them.
Yes. It's such a terrible dynamic, honestly. And I don't wish that on anyone. It was an incredibly hard situation. But even after that, we ended up moving. So he got out of the military. We ended up moving from North Carolina to Delaware and bought a house together. I was just trying to convince myself that there was a future here, but there wasn't. It was a repeat situation, and they almost always are. Yeah. In fact, they continue to escalate, right? And I saw recently that domestic violence is the number 1 killer now of women in the United States.
Oh. Goodness.
It's not, I don't think it's heart disease anymore, which is kind of crazy to me, but I've lived that, And I really, I can empathize and I feel so deeply about, if I can help one person in this situation realize that it is possible to start over in those circumstances. I walked away from my home that I owned. I just signed it off. I signed it over to him I wanted nothing. I just wanted to get out of it. So he had a home that I had contributed to, paid for, and just all these assets that I just gave away because I wanted to distance myself from him.
I just commend you for doing that because I know how hard it is. And it really can happen to anybody, and I've seen it, right? I mean, I mentioned my mother and, with the man that my dad was also in the military. They met in South Korea and, it was a different kind of abuse, right? It was more emotional abuse, maybe
Sure.
not as physical, but it's still, especially when you feel that, you're kind of need that person, right? Because you've already committed to your life with them. So you're trying to do everything that you can to make it last.
Yes.
And, so going through all that, I could imagine. And so your two boys did you have them with him, or at the time?
No,
No.
no, no, I didn't. Thankfully,
Thank goodness.
my sons, my twins are with my current husband.
Mhm.
And we got together almost 15 years ago now. So it's kind of crazy to think how time flies. But no, thankfully, no, not with him. And we parted ways, and we haven't seen each other or heard from each other since the divorce was finalized.
Mhm.
I painfully had to go back and be part of the divorce proceedings in person. So that was quite difficult. Also because he ended up bringing his then girlfriend to the divorce proceedings, and she was a minor at the time. Yeah. So it was tough to swallow.
I mean, it's really sad that the laws don't protect women better and make it a more comfortable situation. I mean, it's unfortunate. And, what helped you get through it? What made you finally decide to leave them? Because I know that, like you said, it's very challenging, and a lot of women can't, haven't figured out how to do that.
Yeah. I don't know what my final straw was. I just know that I've reached that point, and I thought I can't do this anymore. I mean, I think it's really hard to get to that point because you're thinking, ahead, right? Like most women and most mothers I know, like we're thinking weeks, months, years ahead. Like we're planning for everything that's to come. And our minds are going constantly, right? So in that sense, I think we kind of overthink like what's going to happen with this? What's going to happen with that? And how is this going to impact me? And I think I had this like moment of clarity where I'm like, screw it. Like, I don't even care what happens with that. I'm just going to figure it out. And it's hard to get to that point because there's a lot of fear. And it's one of those things where you just have to kind of persevere in spite of the fear. And I don't know how I got to that point. I'm just super glad I did.
Yeah. And I mean, it must have been even challenging being here without your family, and your family still back home. And they probably, I mean, I don't know, did they know what you were going through? Was it something that you kind of kept to yourself?
So I did keep it to myself for quite some time. And then when it did come out, and that it came out because I ended up getting a protective order for a short period of time. He was arrested. And so then the military got involved, and, there were some implications there, but I didn't end up pressing charges because it would also affect me, because at the time I couldn't work. So I was financially dependent on this man. And so I couldn't let go of benefits and all these things that I was afforded by his work. So I was kind of caught in this situation. And so when it did come out, and I ended up talking to my parents about it, and actually his parents, it was sort of swept under the rug, honestly, because it's one of those things where and I can't remember exactly who it was, but I know they all sort of questioned what I had done to provoke some of this behavior. And I think some of that is very cultural in nature. And my parents have changed so much since they've come here. They used to be quite conservative. They're now, super liberal and progressive. And so their lived experience changed once they moved here, and, got exposure to so many different people, races, gender identities, all these things, which I'm super grateful for, but they didn't have that back then. And so I felt deep shame at the time, and it was kind of like, oh my gosh, I have a failed marriage and I'm only, 23 years old. It's not a fun place to be. And I did pull in support from a lot of friends at the time, friends from college who lived in kind of surrounding areas. And I ended up living with a couple of them here and there. It sort of was, I spent a few months with one and then I went to another. And so I did lean on them quite a bit and they were fantastic. So I think that, that really helped me. And those are things that change people's lives, women's lives, that kind of support.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's when, your girlfriends can really make or break for you and boyfriends too, any friends, right? Like having those strong friendships during those times, can really change the trajectory of one's life and being able to share that with somebody. Cause, again, I know how hard that is. I mean, just even the system of having to get a protective order is not easy. I mean, I went through that with my mother round 2 at another time in her life. And literally had to go to the courthouse and wait 6 hours to stand before the judge and tell them why you're in fear for your life and you need a restrictive order. That it's not made easy for the woman at all.
No,
that are in these type of abusive relationships. So
no, not at all. No, I completely agree. Yeah, the support system is so important.
Yeah. It absolutely is. And, and just so unfortunate that you had to go through all of that. But, you did, kind of get out of it. And once you made that separation, how did you just kind of build yourself up again back to that kind of 9-year-old ambition of what you want and get back on track?
Yeah, I mean, I started with nothing again. I had some clothes. I didn't have a ton of personal belongings. I really had to start from scratch. So at that time, I was living in Delaware with my then husband. And, I met him in Ohio. So he had moved back to Ohio. And so he had filed for divorce in Ohio. I filed for divorce in Delaware. And what I found out at that time, I don't know if states do this now, but they didn't talk to each other. So my divorce was going through in 2 different states and I was just lost. I didn't know what to do. I actually ended up having to get 2 separate attorneys. And I was so grateful for the Violence Against Women's Act because that actually helped me get some legal counsel and advice because I was protected within that act. And so very grateful for the fact that was in place. And then ultimately it ended up getting discarded out of Ohio and seen through Delaware. But what happened was because I had to come back to Delaware quite frequently for some of these hearings and to show up in court, I wanted to go out of state, but stay close enough that I could drive back. So I picked Annapolis, Maryland. And it was sort of like my goal was kind of twofold. I wanted it to be somewhere close to the water, somewhere scenic, which Annapolis is beautiful. I don't know if you've been.
Yeah.
And then part of it was I majored in political science. So I thought, why not go to Capitol Hill? It had been a dream of mine. I did Model UN. I had worked and did a lot in terms of like being involved in international relations and things like that. That was a passion of mine. And I sort of was geographically making my way towards Capitol Hill. Mm-hmm. And so I moved into an apartment, started over, bought new furniture, did all of that. And I got a contract to hire role at this very small research and consulting firm, right on the water, most beautiful location. You can just walk out. The parking lot was on the water. So all you see is like sailboats mostly, but there were also yachts and power boats, and just so gorgeous. And then across the way was the Naval Academy. And so just I had such a sense of like peace and like calming, and it was soothing to be there. And I was really like taking in all my surroundings. I loved that area. And so I took on like an administrative role, and a lot of it encompassed marketing, multiple marketing roles. And I completely fell in love with marketing. You know, at that time I knew how to code. So I don't now, but I coded and built their first website. I did all these like cool things that I didn't think were possible, and nor had I even thought I would like doing them. And I just enjoyed it, and I fell in love, and I thought, you know what? I have a new dream. I am going to be a marketer, and I am going to just, climb that ladder as far as I can. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the path I went on.
That's when Sheana the marketer came to life and was born. And that is, wow, so inspiring what you were able to endure and then start all over, find that happy place for you to help you through the transition. That's incredible. So from what was, from there, like where was that kind of that big milestone that kind of got you into your profession? Because I know that you've definitely gone up that ladder and had a lot of different experiences. So kind of share that journey with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this small consulting, research and consulting company was acquired a couple of years into my tenure there. And I had already done a lot of different things, and I was starting to reflect and think, what next for me? And I knew this 20-person company was not going to live up to my ambitions. So I had started to think through, okay, what's next? What do I look for? And then boom, this acquisition happened, and we grew from 20 people to 200 people overnight. And I thought, wow, so much opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. And I was super excited about that. And I ended up raising my hand up for every new opportunity that came up, and ended up getting it because, a lot of times people were afraid to volunteer for new opportunities. And these were opportunities that came through an M&A spree they went on subsequent to acquiring the company I was with. And wow, that was incredible. I got to experience so many different sectors within the energy industry. I should mention that the company that I started working with in Annapolis was in the coal industry, like of all industries that I could have picked. Coal, COAL, right? And at the time, more than 80% of US electricity was generated by coal. Mm-hmm. So it was thriving at that time. Now, not so much. And I also actually saw that at the time. I knew that there would be this slow decline. And I wanted to pivot and move to other sectors within energy to learn and to be able to be more kind of developed in my thinking around how energy, what that energy portfolio might look like, what the needs and how needs will change, right? So I was really fortunate to work in all these different sectors, metals and mining, power and utilities, upstream oil and gas, petrochemicals, chemicals, refining, like you name it, I have done it in energy. And how exciting. Like I was getting promotions every year and a half. I was traveling all over the world, opening new offices, hiring marketing talent, just amazing, amazing experiences. And I was the only marketer in our Annapolis office at the time. And I always was. They never hired anyone there. So my bosses throughout those years were always overseas. I had, managers in the UK, managers in Australia, same with direct report. So very early on, prior to COVID, prior to this like virtual working environment, I was doing all that. I was used to it. I was working in these, cross-functional teams that were dispersed globally. And wow, what a great skill and experience to have when COVID came about.
Oh my God, I can imagine. So how long was your career journey there? And when did you kind of, start your second life with your husband and your twin boys?
Yeah, so I actually spent over 11 years there.
Oh,
So I say that's where I grew up. Like that's where I got married. That's where I had my kids. That's where, I went from assistant to management, all of that. Right. So yeah, I grew up not only in my career, but my personal life as a leader, all of that. And it was while I was there that I met my current husband. We met online when online dating was not that much of a thing back then. So I was always kind of embarrassed at the time to say we met online. Now it's just one of those things, right?
Yeah, it's like so normal.
Yeah. But 15 years ago, it was not normal to say we met online. And so, but we did. And honestly, it went amazing. We were engaged 2 years to the day that we started dating. And he had told me actually when we started dating, it's going to take me at least 2 years to figure out if I want to marry you. So just know that. And I said, okay, that's fair. But listen, if you don't make a decision in 2 years, I'm gone. And so on the day he proposed to me, on that 2-year dating anniversary, and we sort of eloped. We went to Jamaica for 3-4 weeks. I was working for the company was based out of the UK, so I had wonderful benefits, tons of vacation. And so we went to Jamaica, just the two of us. We did have a wedding. We had a ceremony. We had a wedding planner there. We had no guests except for the guests at the resort. They did all they
join in.
Yeah, they did. And they were applauding. They were, celebrating. They watched the whole ceremony. But what we did was we took some time before the wedding. So we kind of relaxed, really chilled out, had the wedding, and then continued to stay for our honeymoon. So it was a really amazingly relaxed vacation, really. And they took care of all the details. So I just had to show up with my dress and shoes.
Hey, it sounds very familiar. My second marriage was very simple too, because you really realize what's important. The second time around. Wow, that is quite the story. And that's, just so wonderful that you were able to kind of find, that second chance of, love and then building a family and having your twin boys. So they're 9, you mentioned. And did you have them in Annapolis where, I don't remember where you're currently at now. Are you still?
No. So I'm in Houston now. I'm in Houston, Texas. So that company I was telling you about that I was with for 11 years moved us out here for a new role and a promotion at that. And then they laid me off 9 months later. So unfortunately, we'd already made the move with 2 7-month-olds in tow. So we'd bought a new house. So we were sort of staying put for a little bit. I've subsequently gone through many more transitions and layoffs and exits. So it's been a little bit of a tumultuous journey for me. And I'm in transition right now as well, looking for my next success. But I'll tell you, going back to my kids, they're about to turn 10 in a couple weeks. And it was a journey getting to have them because I went through infertility challenges and I had 3 miscarriages that were heartbreaking. Oh. The first one was in my second trimester. 2 of them didn't spontaneously miscarry, so I had to have D&Cs. The third one, I got tested, found out it was a little girl. It was a girl. And that, there was nothing wrong with her. And I was, searching for those reasons why this was happening. There were no reasons, right? Beyond your body is rejecting your fetuses. And it's a really tough pill to swallow. But I was determined. It was kind of like coming to the US. I knew, and I will tell you, I knew even back then, 9, 10 years old, I wanted to be a mom. I mean, I didn't obviously pursue it till I had the opportunity. But once I was ready and in that place, I did. So we got pregnant really fast the first time after we got married. And obviously lost 3. And so my husband still says, like, if it weren't for me continuing to push through, continuing to like carry him and drag him into all these appointments and do all the treatments and all of this, like, we would never have had kids. Like, we would never have had these boys.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, an absolute. And then to get 2 little bundles of joy at the same time, how incredible. And your boys are about the age of mine. I mean, mine's 11 now. So I know how special that is. And
yes. Yeah, absolutely. My husband actually didn't want kids when we first met. And so that was one of the criteria of marriage. Like, we agreed to 1 child. I wanted 3. He wanted 0. So we landed at 1. And then when I got pregnant with the twins, he was like, you tricked me. How did this happen? When really it's actually partly his doing that I had.
It came from his side.
Twins. Yeah. So yeah, that was really funny because I still remember to this day calling him to let him know it was twins because I'd just gone in for a routine appointment and they broke the news to me. And I thought, oh my God, you're joking. And so I called him and he was driving at the time and I said, pull over. And he assumed the worst because we'd already had three miscarriages. He thought, oh my God, what's going on? Tell me, And I said, well, there's 2 in there. And he said, what do you mean there's 2 in there? So we have 2 babies, like we're having twins. I said, are you sure? Are they sure? Pretty sure I saw them. I mean, he was just completely lost. He said at the time, all he saw was dollar signs when he heard it was going to be 2.
Oh gosh, not the double amount of love, but yes, probably dollars too. Wow, Sheana, your story is just incredible. And, I knew bits and pieces of it. I appreciate you so much for sharing that because I know that there's so many women and people that go through this and probably don't share it and need to hear other people's stories. So it's just thank you for being, so open and sharing your story. And I know it'll impact so many people and just knowing you and, the times that we've spent together, you're always just so positive and so light and just like so full of joy, and I think it just goes to show that, I think like you said in the beginning of the podcast, is being able to overcome some of those really difficult times and be in a place where you've got so much love around you.
Yes, yes. And really just pulling from that strength, right? That you have, because there's evidence of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important, because our minds can play tricks on us. They can lie to us. And really, it's going back and looking at, what does the evidence tell you? Like, what did you actually do and overcome and achieve? And it's so important to embrace that and know that you're capable of so much more.
Yeah. I mean, that is such an important reminder, right? Is that our minds talk us out of a lot of things. And, but the strength, that human strength, especially that of a woman and an immigrant, and, all of that is just, it's incredible. And, I think you sharing that is going to inspire so many people on, whatever hardships they're going through, is like really finding that inner strength that's there and embracing it.
Yes, absolutely. And asking for help, I think, and accepting the help, right? Like, I didn't have a place to stay at one point, and just accepting that help from friends. I think, it's humbling. It's a humbling experience, but you have to kind of go through that to come out on the other side.
Yeah. That is a huge piece, is asking for the help. And sometimes we think we can do it on our own, or we don't want to ask for help. And, it is so important to have people helping you along the way.
Yes, completely agree.
Well, what's next for you, Sheana? I know you're in transition, and really in that kind of marketing world. What is next for you? What do you envision? What's your next strategy to get you to where you want to be?
Yes. So I am looking for my next corporate gig as a head of marketing in a CMO, SVP, VP level role in a business to business SaaS roles, preferably. But anything that encompasses business to business marketing is where my expertise comes in. And I'm also doing some advisory work and consulting as a fractional CMO. And that's something I think that I will sustain in the long run, and perhaps look at starting my own business and going into entrepreneurship. So I'm excited about what lies ahead for me, and kind of the opportunities that are out there. So I'm also open to any advisory services that anyone might need in the world of B2B SaaS marketing. Yeah, I'm just pursuing some of my other kind of passion projects, which are helping women of color, helping junior marketers looking for that leg up on getting to the next level of leadership, working with women in particular, right? Like, I'm just very passionate about that. And immigrants, like, if I can help immigrant women kind of navigate what that career might look like, career pathing, career progression, I mean, that's fantastic to me. So I'm doing that through some volunteer opportunities, board service in the nonprofit space, and so on. So really, really excited about that.
Yes, there's, I think so many leaders as yourself that are just, working on what you need for your life and your fulfillment, but also just the amount of giving back and really helping, that next, group of women and people of color, achieve their ambitions and their goals is fantastic. So if our listeners want to get in touch with you in any way, what's the best way to contact you? Where could they find you through the various social channels?
So I am everywhere, but I am quite private in on some of the channels. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so definitely look for me on LinkedIn at Sheana Hamill, and you can also email me. I am completely open to answering emails as I receive them, and I love hearing from people and meeting new people. And I actually open up my time every week to talk to new people, network, and see how I can help them. So I have some time slots available to do that.
Oh, that is such a nice open invitation. And I'm like you, my social channel of choice is LinkedIn. So, and I think it's such a great platform. I've met incredible people, contacts from all over the world, and it's just such a great way to connect. And I know a lot of our listeners are on there. So I think, just putting that out there and just being accepting to it could really make a difference for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Julie. It was wonderful. I can't wait to see you in person again.
Yes, we are going to plan something, whether it's, meeting up in Dallas. They have the King Spa in Dallas, the Korean King Spa, the same one in Chicago.
Oh, okay. And they don't have one in Houston?
Maybe I haven't looked at. I wouldn't be surprised because I think you guys have quite the Korean community there. But we did go to the one in Dallas, and apparently that same company, that same brand is also in Dallas. So we had made plans to try to go. But yes, and I need to actually make a visit to Texas and kind of hop around and do some market visits. So we will have to plan something. And if you're ever going to be back in Miami, you're always welcome to.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to take you up on that.
Yes. I did. Sunshine.
Yes, yes, exactly. Although it's been a little cool here and there. Today is a beautiful day though, so I can't complain. And I'm happy to come to Dallas too, Julie. It's a little bit of a drive, but I can make that for you. I'd love to see you.
Yes, me too. Well, we will plan it. I thank you so much. And, you definitely inspire me. And I just appreciate you sharing your story so much. And I think it'll touch so many people and give everybody that reminder of our inner strength that we have to really overcome and be, really enjoy the best of life and those views and, all the beauty that's in front of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks for listening. Served Up is brought to you by Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. Produced by Zunu.online. Music by We Killed the Lion can be found on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe to be notified of future Served Up episodes. Cheers!